So what next? For Foursquare, I guess what's next is really refining a lot of the game mechanics. You know, it's almost it's a year and a half into this into the way we're doing things now. We've learned a lot from our users. So that's something we think a lot about. Like, we can't let the game kind of get stale, right? Because that's what encourages you to go out and do these things. That's what encourages you to lead to better tips. That's what encourages you to check in more and share more of this data. So we're working on doing that. We're working on making the tips feature, which I think really is where we started, much more useful. So you can actually pull in tips from all over. You can pull in tips from all the things that you potentially read that you want to carry on with you. Oh yeah, and it's what's most interesting that we noticed in the last year is that these kind of mechanics, these kind of like game theory related ideas can be introduced into other parts of our life. There's actually our buddy Jay Parkinson, who started this thing called Hello Health, says, you know, if we can do this with something like Foursquare, if we can make going out into a game, why not turn health into a game? You know, what if we got points for eating healthier and going to the gym and doing all those things?
Reading books.
Reading books potentially. Yeah. This is actually something I was talking to Susan about earlier. This is actually something I started doing in 2002. This is every book that I ever read from like 2002, 2006, like mid 2006. I kept track of all of these things, if only to see like how many books I could get through. I was in grad school and I was like, I'm not really doing enough fiction reading. I really want to do this. In doing it, I should probably track what I'm doing. And I kept track of how many pages I read. So over 600 days, I read like 21,000 pages. And I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to keep track of and like maybe you go back on one day. There was another thing that I started doing called Track Your Happiness. And I love telling the story. I'm going to finish with this. It's really neat. It's kind of a game, but not really, because it is more a dashboard into what makes me happy. Like throughout the day, am I happier when I hang out with certain people? Am I happier at work and all these other things? So I did this test twice, once over the summer and once I think in early winter. And 2 or 3 times a day, it sends you a text message and it says, it's got a survey of like 20 or 30 questions and it asks you, like, who are you hanging out with? How do you feel? Did you get enough sleep? Did you eat right? Did you exercise? And you go through and answer these questions, and at the end of the day, at the end of the survey, you get a report. And the report basically says, yeah, here's when you're most happiest. You're happiest when you're more focused. I mean, these are all things I think we already know about, but it's interesting to see them as a visual later on. Whether I'm inside or outside didn't matter for my happiness, which I thought was kind of interesting. Everyone always says, I wish I was outside instead of sitting at work, but it doesn't seem to matter in my case. Same thing here. You see a dashboard of like, oh, well, of all the places I was in, when I was caught in the rain, I was the saddest. But otherwise, parks and bars, I was happy. So it's interesting to see how we can use these kinds of elements in other parts of our lives. And I'd like to finish there for Q&A.
Well, this is great, and so I think we'll open it up to questions. Thanks, Naveen. Emily, do you want to start out, pick it up?
Hi, that was great, thank you. I was wondering if you are going to use Foursquare to track people's visiting websites.
Can you repeat the questions?
Yeah, so she was asking if we're going to put Foursquare to use to...
So people could track.
So people could track what websites.
Check in websites.
Check in websites. I don't know. I don't think so. There are actually a lot of other sites that already do this. There's a site called GetGlue that tracks all the websites that you go to and all the things that you like. Yeah. I imagine there must be something interesting there, but I'm not immediately seeing it. For the time being, we're focused on these kinds of things because they're about getting out. Even though this is an app that you carry in your pocket and it pings you all the time, the best use case would be it tracks you to some smart degree and just stays out of your way. It's about getting you to meet interesting people. It's about getting you to go try those things in a city. It should not stay in your way all the time. So that's really where we want to take it. Instead of being more interactive and clicky, we want it to stay out of the way and occasionally pop in and say, oh, hey, thanks for landing in Tokyo. Here are the top 5 things you should do. Right? A dream scenario would be, it probably knows, it probably has a history of like 4,000 places I've been to in the last couple of years, right? Imagine if I could take that data and I land in Tokyo and immediately I'm presented with like a list of 10 things that says, you're in Tokyo for 2 days, you gotta go hit all these things, you're gonna love them. I would like to get there. Yeah.
It's obviously, you described the game approach, and it's mobile, and it's also local. So it's, you describe it as a location-based system, but it also moves with it.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, he asked if I would describe it as a location-based system. I would describe it as a location-based system. Yeah, it's we always call it like I think we said 50% city guide, 50% game, or something along those lines. The core idea is for it to be a city guide, for it to be a very social utility, like your mobile social network, basically. Yeah, in the green shirt, she had a hand up first.
Talk about the branded badges or the badge sponsorships.
Yeah, I didn't really cover that in this talk. I wanted to focus more on where we came from. So some of the badges, there's so much demand for badges, right? People want badges for checking into everything. They want a badge for coming to this talk. And the idea of badges was basically not to give you a badge every time you did something, a one-off. It's like a little sugar cube reward that you might give. But the idea of badges is to unlock an adventure of some sort, right? You go do things in sequence, in a pattern, and then you get this. You meet 6 of the employees at Foursquare, any 6 of them, and you get a badge out of it. Like, there's something interesting there. It's not just about meeting one person, but we really want you to get to know us. And we thought the best way to do that was like to set a higher bar. So a lot of companies approach us about branded badges. They're like, if you check into our store, you should give us a badge you should give a badge to people for checking into our store. And we're sort of thinking, they check into your store and they tell everyone, that's good enough, isn't it? So what we're doing with branded badges is really trying to focus more on sticking to the idea of the game-like elements and the idea of unlocking your city. So for instance, we worked with Bravo, for instance. There are a couple of TV shows on Bravo. We let a few of the celebrities put tips into Foursquare. If you went to any of the places that celebrities liked and you did them in a certain order, you got a badge out of it. Or you got 2 or 3 badges out of it. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Well, I just want to know how that would translate to a brand, like a book series, or
Oh, in that?
brand, like somehow.
Okay. I can't remember if we've done anything book related. We've done these for bands and things, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do it with a book. I think the way you might be able to structure something is either use the author's voice or a character's voice, and then have them leave tips or have them choose favorite places in the city, and then unlock a badge through that experience. So experience the world, either a city or a set of cities, through the author's eyes or through the character's eyes, and then get a badge out of it. Does that make sense? But how do you go about doing that, you see? Yeah, at the moment, you'd have to talk to our biz dev team. They would be able to answer. I can't really say. Each structure we do is different. It's really more based on interest and like trying to get a variety of different experiments under our belt at the moment. We're working on streamlining the process. I can't tell you any more than that at the moment. But we'll talk afterwards if you want to. If you want me to put you in touch with the team. Yeah.
This was really great. Thank you very much. Can you talk a little bit about the demographics of your users? Male, female, age, psychographic profiles?
Yeah, we've only recently started collecting age data. We would say we're 60% in the US, 40% international. Bigger cities tend to be more popular, obviously, bigger urban areas. So New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Tokyo, Seoul, a few places in Indonesia, London. And as far as the division of gender, I would want to say maybe 60-40, male-female. But it really varies where you go, what city you are, and all those other things. And that's it. We haven't really done the analysis on age. But if I had to guess, I would say like obviously 20s and 30s, post-college. Yeah.